America is one of the most important countries in the entire world, even more important than popular nations like Europe, Africa, and even London. And because of that, we get many, many stereotypes. And some of them really are true, even though we may not want to admit it. But some of them are just dead wrong, and something that no American ever on the continent of the USA has ever and will ever do. As you can likely hear from my normal sounding voice with absolutely no accent whatsoever, because us Americans speak English the only right way, I'm from the US of A, but I will unbiasedly decide which stereotypes are true and which ones are dead wrong. I'm going to put them on a fancy list ranging from 100% true to false as a cheeseless cheeseburger. Starting with what may be the one that's joked about the most often by non-Americans, that Americans are all fat lard balls. Now, although not every American is walking around in the United States with a Toyota Corolla's worth of excess weight, there sure is a lot more fat people here than a lot of other countries. Most people that you see in the US are not that heavy, but the average adult is carrying some excess weight under an oversized t-shirt. And we really do have some extreme big backs here too. If you want to see some of the examples, go to any Walmart grocery store and look around. There will be at least one person who needs a visit from Dr. Now for My 600-Pound Life in the next 2 weeks before their entire bloodline dies off. If you look at a map of obesity rates around the world, the US is one of the worst ones on the map, although the Middle East is also surprisingly chunky. Us Americans love to eat large meals, and in America, most people don't really care about what is in a meal, and they just eat it if it tastes good. But I can't lie and say a nice 2,000 calorie meal of an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet doesn't sound appetizing every once in a while. My partial rebuttal to the stereotype is that while America has a good portion of fat people, we also have a lot of fit people, and gym culture is big here. If you look around in the USA, there's a lot of strong-looking people here, and a lot of lean people too. And there's always someone in the room who can bench 3 plates, but there's still too many people who can only do 3 plates if there's an oversized heaping pile of pie on each one of them. This one, I'd say, is relatively true, and has some points overall. So I'm going to probably place it around the middle of the list. The next stereotype is related, and that's about what's in all of our food. Our food is loaded with tons of unhealthy chemicals. This one is pretty true. You look at the back of a box of cereal, and there's an entire book worth of ingredients on the back. Most of them you can't even read. Some of those ingredients are fine things they add that won't really hurt you at all, but the problem is knowing if xanthanol gum is going to shorten your lifespan by 30 years or not. And some of the bad chemicals are allowed to be in our food even though they're really bad for us. And they either make our food so bright red or blue that your eyes are going to explode. And some of the worst chemicals make something that should expire in 3 weeks last 4 years. But most of us Americans are so desensitized to the new bad ingredient in all of our food that we just stop caring and eat it anyways. And honestly, I'm kind of in that boat too. This one's very true because the companies are allowed to just throw whatever they want. I'm going to place this one pretty high. I'm going to place this above the fat stereotype because this one's true. Next, we got the cowboy stereotype, and that is that we all got cows in a herd and wear cowboy hats with lassos, drinking whiskey while a tornado is chasing us all around town. This one's probably the most true on the list. I don't even know one American who doesn't at least own a cowboy hat and go to the saloon to get drunk on the weekend, riding their beautiful steed to get there. I'm just kidding. None of that is true. It's not even really true at all. It's more of a horse culture that really originated from Mexican culture, which is from Spain, and the Spanish actually got it from North Africa a long time ago, so it's not even really that related to US culture. I'm not even sure why it's a stereotype of America when it's really more Spanish influence than anything else. It's even weird as a joke stereotype to me, because it's just not that related to us. Other than maybe parts of the Southwest and Texas, which do have some cowboys, sometimes it gets attributed to all of us for some reason. I'm going to put this one really close to the bottom, because the only cowboys I see are in very specific scenarios. We up next have the stereotype always talked about as a talking point for politics, or just for Europeans to hate on us, is gun violence. Now, gun violence is a very real thing in the US, and whether you think that guns are good or bad to have in the average citizen, I won't tell you because I really don't care what you think. This is a pretty true stereotype. We are easily the largest nation in the world that allows citizens to buy their own weapons for use outside of very specific or military purposes. Many people in the US walk around carrying a handgun somewhere on them. I get it for safety. If other people have guns, you should too to be safe. But it does mean that there is a lot of gun violence here compared to other countries. Not as much to the degree that some people like to claim it is a problem here, but there still are way more guns among the general population here than anywhere else in the world. We have the highest guns per capita count in the world at around 100 guns per 100 people, so there's around one gun for every person in the US. After some, maybe just tiny Yemen, but they have their guns for a different reason. And we have a lot of mass shootings here. Those are always very sad, and I hate to see them happen. And murders by gun are also pretty common here. This stereotype has validity to it because we are one of the few nations that allows guns so readily available. But it's not as big of a problem as pedantic Europeans make it out to be. I'm going to put it higher, but not at the top, because it's kind of true, but not as big of a problem as Ratatouille from France thinks it is, because he really hates the United States. I'm going to put it probably between the fat American stereotype and the bad food ingredient stereotype. This is kind of true. Now, all you people from the country of Europe like to talk about how bad us Americans are at geography and understanding other people's cultures. Now, what I think about the stereotype is that it's mostly just a misinterpretation of what us Americans know and don't know. Sure, they are right that the average John Johnson walking around the States doesn't know much about Slovenia's nominal GDP or cultural practices. But Europe is very far from us physically, and it has gotten pretty far from us culturally too at this point. So although it's important, it's not the top priority like the Germans walking around with their big egos about their knowledge on their own continent say it should be. Ask Keir Starmer where the state of Mississippi is in the United States, and he probably would have no clue. But why should he have a clue when it's not even his country? If you ask a European about Europe geography, they will usually know it pretty well. And you ask the average American about American geography and culture, they'll know it pretty well too. And sure, America has only half the population of Europe, but still, I feel like it's normal for us to know our region better and for Europeans to know their region better. A lot of people make fun of us for this, and sometimes you see those videos of Americans who are just horrible at geography.
Name a country that begins with U.
Yugoslavia?
With you, Utah.
A country that starts with a U. Utopia.
But a lot of those are fake or exaggerated. And it's true that some Americans are just really stupid. But there are plenty of Europeans who are dumb as a dead and crumbling leaf too. It has some validity. Maybe we could learn about other people's culture a little more. But most of us that we just don't really need to because those things aren't super important to the average American. After all, we aren't the entire world, but we're in a very important country that's very big and you can pretty much travel around it your whole life and not run out of things to do. I'm going to put this one close to the bottom, right above the cowboy stereotype. Just not that. It's just not as bad as people say. The next stereotype is our patriotism. If you go to America, you'll see American flags everywhere you go. And a lot of people you talk to see the US as the only important country in the world, and therefore believe we are objectively better than all other countries. This stereotype is honestly pretty true. We love our country as Americans, and some demographics of people are more patriotic than others, but still patriotism is very high in our country for everyone. Sometimes we get too much tunnel vision about how other countries don't matter, but hate us all you want, lousy non-Americans. We can be patriotic for our own country if we want to be. I'll put this one pretty high because it's honestly true about all of us. If you go to most countries, they don't have their flag up quite as often as us Americans do. I'm going to put this one between gun violence and bad ingredients and food stereotype because it's pretty true. Next we got that we're allowed. I don't have to talk that much about this one. This one's just very true. Quite a lot of people here are so loud everywhere they go. And I'm kind of like that too. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm going to put this one right at the top because it's just so true. Americans, compared to other cultures, it's so normal to just be loud everywhere you go. But in other cultures, it's different. Whenever I go to another country, I have to learn to be a little bit quieter. This one's right at the top. Work culture in the US is up next, and it's the stereotype that we all work long hours, grinding with very little vacation time, and we have very little workers' rights. Without many work benefits, like there are in other countries, we pretty much have to do whatever our bosses say, and listen to Bill Lumbergh tell us whatever he wants us to do, if you get that reference. But at least our taxes aren't as high as some of the European countries and other Western nations' tax rates. This one's pretty true, but I wouldn't say it's quite as bad because we do have some rights, and if you make a good position in a good company, you'll have some decent rights. I think we could work on maybe getting more workers' rights, but that's what you believe. I think it could be good, but if you have a different belief, that's fair enough. Workers' rights are good, but they also make taxes higher. I'm going to put this one around the middle between patriotism stereotype and the gun violence stereotype. Okay, we got our last stereotype here. The stereotype is that we pretty much need a car to get around anywhere. We drive the same car hours every day to go to and from work. We'll drive from New York City all the way to Florida because Florida has slightly cheaper housing than New York City where we work. This one's honestly, there's some truth to it. There's almost no public transportation in the US to speak of. If you live outside a tier 1 city or somewhere else that's really massive. And in the US, things are also really spread out because we build so big. So generally, in most parts of the US, you pretty much need a vehicle just to get around. And it's common to drive like around 30 minutes to an hour just to get to work or to go to a nice restaurant because our cities are so large and so spread apart. Even in the rural areas, you often do this. And also, we absolutely love giant vehicles that we don't need. Half of the big trucks you see on the road are never used by the owners for actual work, and they're just their pavement princesses. And if you want a big vehicle, fair enough. Buy a big vehicle. We just drive them because we think they're cool. This stereotype is pretty true. I'm going to put the stereotype between the bad ingredients stereotype and the patriotism stereotype. Okay, now we have our list. I'd say this is a pretty accurate list in my opinion of how true these all are. If you guys disagree with the list, say what you disagree with in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day, and God bless.